If I'm a programmer, what people don't realize is I have a million robots working for me. If I come up with an idea, I code that idea up. Now there are a million robots who carry that idea. They're just sitting in a data center for heat and efficiency reasons and space reasons. They're loaned to me by Amazon.com, who takes a little cut with Amazon Web Services. But that leverage means that if I decide on the right thing to do versus the wrong thing to do, I can make $100 million or $0. It's a wide swing. Whereas for someone who is not leveraged through technology, they don't have that force multiplier. We're used to thinking of money as the main source of capital. And before that, the main source of capital used to be people. How many people are working for you, right? That's why older individuals in society tend to be really impressed by how many people are working for you. And people who are a little more savvy are like, how much money are you managing? Or what kind of revenue are you doing? But really, the correct question is, how many robots are working for you? How many programmers are working for you? How many machines are working for you? Because those are the ultimate force multiplier.
Hello, welcome to the Golden Age. So this is the episode I might title, You Might Not Want to Watch This One. So let's talk about the singularity. It's not a moment, it's a slope. It's a gradient. This week, the slope got even steeper. Last episode, I told you the industry building this technology can no longer plan a quarter ahead. This week, it couldn't plan a week ahead. On Saturday, a security firm published the autopsy of the first ransomware attack run end-to-end by an AI agent. More than 600 payloads, no human directing each step, the machine diagnosing and fixing its own bugs in 31 seconds. On the same stretch of days, Fortune confirmed that Anthropic had passed OpenAI on revenue, 47 billion run rate, against 25 to 33 on OpenAI. The company most people picture when they hear the word AI is no longer the one making the most money from it. And so we had OpenAI's newest models, Sol, Terra Luna, still sitting behind a government review board. And then we wait. I think it's probably, those are out now, depending on when you watch this. But this is not really a power or a product cycle story. It's a story about velocity. The power is moving from OpenAI to Anthropic. Power is moving from the lab inside a frontier company to the state. Power is moving from human hands to autonomous hands, where AI programs itself or builds itself. So, I've spent 25 years inside higher ed and seeing slow moving institutions, and watching something like this is startling. And I know I say it almost every week, but this is the week that things are just getting out of control, even more so than last time. So let's start to talk about it. It's July 14th, 2026. This is episode 20 of the Golden Age podcast. My name is Hector. I'm an IT executive, the English lit background. I'm a techno-optimist, and let's get started. So Anthropic overtakes OpenAI on revenue. So a month ago, the annual run rate, which is if the company continues to make this kind of money for the rest of the year at this rate, by the year it would have earned $47 billion. That's Anthropic's current run rate. At current growth, it looks like it might end the year with $100 billion earned. Right now, OpenAI's run rate is about 25 to 33 billion. So what does this mean? Is it a big number? Maybe. Relatively, maybe not. If Anthropic is worth $2 or $3 trillion, if they go public, and that's what they're valued at, then a $47 billion annual revenue isn't that great in comparison, right? A lot of stocks are trading, their value is 8 times the revenue, or 10 times. Some trade 20 times, but more than that, it starts to really question what's going on. So, no, given the potential value of Anthropic, $47 billion is just the start. We're going to see $100 billion probably by the end of the year, and it may grow twice, 5, 10 times by the end of next year. So we might see $1 trillion revenue for the first time. And then that would make the company worth somewhere in the order of $10, $20 trillion pretty easily. And they wouldn't be alone. Like SpaceX probably is going to have a similar trajectory. And so would OpenAI. At the current rate, maybe OpenAI has less of a value on the open markets, but maybe not. We'll see. These things, these trends, the leader is shifting now. Every 60 days, it seems something could happen, but it could be a breakthrough. OpenAI gets the lead back. It really is hard to say at this point. So I believe GPT 5.6 is out. It was behind the review window until about a week ago. It was released to about 20 government partner organizations, and then who knows how many private organizations. It's clear that it's a significant leap. To call it 5.6, it might be underselling it in comparison to 5.5. It seems to be more on the order of we should be comparing this against Mythos, the Anthropic, the top Anthropic model. So the reviews are pretty good. There's not a lot of reasons to use Mythos at this point unless there's a specific use case, because frankly, you'll get the same relative answers out of Mythos for more money. And at this point in time, the cost of the model is starting to be a huge differentiator. You're seeing private companies say, why am I spending this kind of money on Anthropic? Maybe I should use an open source model. Maybe I should use OpenAI. Maybe I should use Grok. And so the cost is going to be really significant. I think the individual is going to value AI differently than the corporation, differently than the government, differently than a nonprofit or education. So they're going to have a variety of pricing models, a variety of just ways to recoup and make revenue. I think I talked about this a little bit last week. You can now get Claude in Slack. So you can, if you're a company that owns a Slack license, you can integrate that into your Slack workflow, which means you can create a channel, talk to agents in that channel, and have the agents do work. This is a big deal. For those that have worked in Slack, you can kind of see how this is much different than having to go to a web page to ask AI a question. In Slack, you can reference previous conversations, you can reference documents, you can reference automation and workflows. That's a pretty big deal. Memory still is a huge problem. RAM prices are rising 90% this quarter for consumer devices. God knows what they're charging the people building the data centers. I assume that the price hikes are just the same. So the ones that are actually getting the supply. I just looked the RAM that I bought for my PC here that I built at least a year and a half ago. I paid about $270 for, somewhere around that area, and it's over $600 right now. If I were to buy the same exact RAM, and in fact, I could buy better RAM. So that's not even the best RAM. That's like average RAM for my PC. So it's getting kind of out of control. What are the news items here? I'm going to go blow through the news quickly and then get to the big topic of the conversation. Other news items. I think I talked about this last week too, that Nvidia shipped a toolkit for doing biomolecular models, including protein folding, genomics. This is where I think you're going to see a lot of development is going to be in biotech. We're just starting to see the capabilities emerge there. Let's see. Those are the big news items. I generally like to talk about the news items with someone else, and I think there's a good chance that my podcast partner might come back for the next episode. And so I want to preserve the news for another time, I think. But let's talk about the thing I wanted to talk about, which is I'm starting to question something. I am super, super enthusiastic about AI, and I can present a picture, a plausible picture, and a plausible scenario in which this will make life better for me and for you and for everyone in the West and eventually everyone in the world, right? We're going to see abundance. We're going to see healthcare that's near free. We're going to see compute that's near free, which means that we can provide services to people for free. The price of things are going to plummet. We're going to see deflation as these goods and services become just available. They'll be worth less. And so you'd be able to buy medical care for, much less than pennies on the dollar paying for now. So I could talk through why exactly this is going to happen. It's largely due to a self-recursive improvement by the AI model, developing bodies for the AI in which it can start to learn the world, experience the world as we experience it. Artificial general intelligence leading to artificial superintelligence, and then energy creation and utilizing space. We'll be able to just make so many robots that can make so many things, that can build so many things, that can grow so many things for us. It's a very plausible scenario. However, I think there's something to be talked about and how exactly we get there. And should I leave room for the doomers? That is what's called P-doom, the probability of doom for humanity. Sure. I'm not going to say that's impossible. And I could talk through scenarios that work like that. But I think you have to look at the end game here. And the end game is that we're going to turn over our decision making and responsibility to the thing that can do the best and have the best outcome for us. And eventually, whether it happens fast or slow, eventually, preponderance of intelligence and production will be done by non-humans, whether humans exist or not. I like to think we will exist, but eventually not all, 99.9999% of intelligent thought is going to be performed by a machine or a cyborg, and 99 point whatever, how many decimal points of things being built are going to be built for that artificial mind or that hybrid thing. And the amount of thought that is produced and ideas produced and things produced by humans, human minds and human hands is going to be around here. I think the people that are most into this and people that have made good predictions are looking at about 50 to 100 years where this is going to be the case, where just naturally, logically, that if we have these kind of capabilities, then this is what is going to happen. It would be like if humans had tools but didn't build anything. Of course they're going to build something. They have the tools. We're going to have machines that have the tools. So they're going to go off and build. And if we can keep them in alignment with our needs, either by joining them or by having them interested in our prosperity, then it could go well. I mean, I'm not saying that it would be a human zoo where there's economic and activity happening all around and only one small part of the solar system is where humans hang out and do their thing. But certainly the case will be that 99% plus of all thought and all things are going to be due to something that's not human and not natural. So how do we get there? I'm starting to wonder, as the government has started to intercede and as people like Sam Altman are asking, they're not Sam Altman, Dario Amodei are asking the government to intercede and asking for regulations. I mean, there's a concept here called regulatory capture, in which the biggest and largest groups, if they make the particular request for legislation, what it might actually do is prevent competition, prevent the small guy from rising up, because they will have to go through the same hoops, same regulations that the big guys have And so it'll slow down the competition and drive the capital and the talent to the big frontier labs. So you got to be careful with regulation. Also, you got to be careful because you don't want China to leapfrog us more than they might already have because we are regulated. But without some sort of self-restraint by the labs, we could get in a position, because we're in a race condition between labs, we could get in a position to where we push the technology a little bit too fast and things happen without our realization. So no one is acknowledging that we shouldn't regulate, or no one's saying that we shouldn't regulate. It's all in the details, right? So I was watching a podcast. I don't know the gentleman's name. He used to work in OpenAI, but he was on Diary of a CEO, and and his company now writes these projections about what they expect AI to do and the alternatives. And and he says that if we don't do anything naturally be a scenario that's not beneficial to people, and we do get engaged and we do focus on measured progress, transparent research, which means transparent training of these models, that there is a path to where we just get abundance and human prosperity. However, he's not too optimistic. And his main point is that he just doesn't think, he doesn't believe, knowing some of these, watching these people in action, watching like the Sam Altman in action, he doesn't believe that there's any people at the top in any of the frontier labs or the adjacent labs. I'm talking, I'll go from, Elon to Zuckerberg to Amadei to Altman to Dennis at Google to Ilya at Microsoft. None of these people, in his opinion, should be allowed to wield the power that they already have, but especially the power they could potentially have. He maintains that there's really no good reason, there's no beneficial reason, there's no benefit to humanity if Sam Altman develops true AGI that can rebuild itself and either is super intelligent or close to it. It would just give Sam too much power. It's a responsibility that's never really been seen before, and it's too much for one person to wield. So he votes for, or he endorses, transparency and governance, so we can collectively make those decisions. And so it makes me think, a lot of people make the assumption that Anthropic and Dario are really looking out for humanity, trying to have the AI aligned, trying to do the right thing. And they say that, and you can see articles that Dario produces and Anthropic produces that do make that claim and are trying to ethically develop the technology. And people say that Sam's kind of the opposite, like Sam Altman and OpenAI. He's like, he just wants to be the leader. He wants to defeat Elon. He wants to be the leader. And all these people at the top, probably if you ask them, think that this can go well if they do it, if they execute, and not the others. With the exception of Dennis and Dario, they seem to get along pretty well. But so they think this, let me do it. Don't regulate me, or if you do, regulate my way, and I'll be the one that's successful. I'll be the one that gets this done, and it'll keep it in check and to the benefit of humanity. Except for one thing, the incentives. What are the incentives? Where do those incentives come from? And how do they change your decision making? As someone who's led people and watched people above me lead people, there's a few things that happen. One, you have blinders. There's so much information that you would have to take in to make the right decision that you have to get summaries or contextual notions of what's happening out there. So as much as you might think you know somebody that is in charge of a certain project or a group, you don't. You know them contextually. So it's an information problem, first of all. As much as you think of Elon and his management style, his effectiveness, or think that Dario is just an intellectual leader and understands deeply how things are working, or how Demis is technical and can really understand the process, and you listen to these people and they do all these things. It's not enough. It's not enough for them. And when they're making decisions that will impact society, I mean, we're talking about decisions that are going to fundamentally transform how we do government. It's going to require us to find a model that either eliminates capitalism or changes capitalism to something different looking. You're dealing with things that are just far too great. These people don't have the sufficient human experience to make these decisions. There's no one alive does. And maybe they think that that's the case. And maybe they think AI is going to help them with that. But we still have to get there. And getting there is going to be the problem. And I've been starting to notice posts by Dario and Elon and Sam on X that make me wonder if their decisions are unchecked and they are operating too heavily on the motivations out there, the incentives. And it's not just money. I mean, it is money. If they want to succeed, and this is where people make a lot of compromises in their leadership style. When you lead people, you're dealing with lives, whether it's their professional life or sometimes their private lives, their personal life, because what happens professionally can affect them privately. And you have to make decisions that benefit either a philosophy or an ethic or a mission of a group or institution. It's difficult. So here's what I'm trying to say. Oftentimes, what you think is the right thing is not going to be viewed as the right thing to others, and in fact, viewed as the opposite. And you'll have to say to yourself, well, that's just for the best. That's so we can have the best outcome. And of course, best is very subjective. So I think these lab leaders, these frontier lab leaders say, well, I obviously cannot ignore that we need capital, that we need money, and that we need talent. And we need the runway, right? So they will strive to get capital, whether it's through revenue or it's through investors or it's through the open markets. And once they have the capital, they'll strive to get the talent. The capital buys the infrastructure, so it buys the data centers. And then they need the runway, the ability to be regulated in the way they want to be regulated, and ability to distribute this, and ability to access the market to make that revenue. And then that cycle loops. And none of that did I mention what's best for people. And none of that did I mention what's the right thing to do culturally. What's the political system going to look like that supports that? What really are we going to do about jobs? How are we going to get people retrained? Who's going to implement this? Where's my focus? Is my focus healthcare? Is my focus just having models build models? And the decisions you make are based upon those incentives, not in what I just talked about, not all the human alliance stuff. And so I just think their incentives are not correct. However, there's not really an alternative here. This is what we have. So these are the pieces on the board. But I think we need to talk about it. We need to understand where we're at. And I look at some of these posts, and I'll reference one today. I saw this post and I thought, cool, that's great. And I retweeted it and I left it at that. And then I thought about it. And then I saw someone else's reaction to it. And now I wonder. And here it is. Anthropic announced today they're making Claude available to teachers for free. Now, I haven't looked into it. and they want you to validate as a teacher. So there's some, special there that people have to overcome. And I imagine it's probably equivalent to the $20 a month model, or they may have some other model they want to build in to limit the use of it. And that's fine. And I thought, well, isn't that great? Now, teachers don't have to pay or rely upon whoever they work for to give them the tools to work on their curriculum, to do their classroom planning, to learn more about whatever they want to teach, to try different experiments, to do whatever, make assignments, grade assignments, do whatever, right? Access maybe data that they can't access because there's a paywall behind it. Sounds fantastic. And then I wondered, are they doing this to help teachers? Or are they doing this to make teachers? So one of the things that's come up in the last few weeks is people in tech, in the AI industry, calling out the big labs. And specifically, they're calling out OpenAI and Anthropic. I don't think they're calling out Microsoft or Grok or SpaceX or even Meta, Facebook. And they're saying, look, we're paying a lot for AI services. And in this case, we're talking about tokens, right? And let's use an example. So a company called Palantir, who is a security company, but not IT security. They make products for agencies like police agencies or the Department of Defense. They might power your drone. Palantir was used in the initial attack against Iran this year, and to which Anthropic replied, "Hey, that's cool if you use if you use Palantir, because Palantir uses Anthropic to power Palantir." And Anthropic said, "Oh, that's fine as long as you don't spy on Americans or use us for autonomous weaponry." And that caused a whole kerfuffle. Look back like 5 episodes, and we talked about that. But Palantir called out Anthropic, saying, "Look, we use you, we pay you a lot. But ultimately, what is happening is that we are giving you all of our data, all of our intellectual property is being funneled through your artificial intelligence. And whether or not you make the claim that you're not going to utilize that and learn from that and train on that or steal it, you can. And we don't like that. We don't feel like that's a good exchange. We like paying for the service, but we are not being compensated for you getting to the core of our business model." The CEO of Palantir, I think his name is Karp, he calls it the alpha. We give you all these things, we give you our alpha, and what do we get for it? So, Palantir has started to partner with Nvidia. Nvidia actually has its own model. They have an open source model called Neutron, and Nvidia and Palantir are going to team up and build, based on the open source, build models that are closed and secure for their customers and not have to rely upon Anthropic if there's a disruption in Anthropic's terms and conditions, or in terms of like, you can't use this for these things. And they could say that at any given time, honestly. I mean, if it's not explicitly prevented by the contract, yeah, they can say, this is how we want you to use it. But I'd be like saying, I make gasoline. Say I'm Chevron. I make gasoline, and I'll sell you gasoline. And by the way, it's the best gasoline. Let's just say this is the best gasoline. Your car will go twice as far and be twice as efficient, and it won't pollute, and just the best gasoline. And but you know what? I don't want you using this gasoline to drive to get an abortion, or I don't. This gasoline, you can't use this gasoline in Alabama because I don't believe what Alabama's doing, or you can't use this gasoline if you're a Democrat. This is not how it should work, right? And so Anthropic, they wield too much power if they're going to start throwing down how their AI is used. And so Palantir said, no, we will continue to use as partners that best suit our customers' needs. But in certain cases, we're going to utilize our own models. And as the open source models get better and better, why not? If it works for the customer, if it can secure the customer's data, can secure the customer's IP and their alpha, why not? So we have the situation where I wouldn't call it distrust. I would call it just people are awakening to the idea that let's be careful about the companies that own this technology. And not because we think they're evil, not because we think they're trying to take advantage of us in a, like actively, like that's not their intent, but we're giving away too much. And this is maybe not the service we want to buy. And maybe it's because of the incentives of the people in charge of these frontier labs. The incentives just don't match what the customer wants. So this is a problem. So with this now free for teachers thing that Anthropic's doing, what is the incentive? Sounds great. But they were also going to learn very quickly. And I talked about this last episode. It's not so much learning the knowledge on the internet. It's learning how we behave. And you can only infer so much from textual information or even video. But when you watch people live behave, that's going to give some new context. So why would you not train on the behavior of students or teachers using Claude? It would make zero sense to not do that. And even if they could even make the claim, yes, we are doing this so we can provide a better AI. So one day we can just have AIs. Everyone can have their own personalized teacher, the best teacher possible. And that's made possible by training on teacher behavior. It sounds plausibly like the ethical thing to do, but I go back to what I said. Remember, people in positions of executive leadership oftentimes think they're doing the best thing. I'm not saying they're all good people, because they're not, but it is their job to make these decisions, and it is their job to consider the pros and cons and the context of everything, and it's their job fundamentally. And I do think I can see someone like Eduardo Amadei saying, this is a win-win. This is good, right? We've provided this now a free service that is, I don't know if it's probably not worldwide, it's probably United States, so maybe it's in certain countries, but it's going to benefit our country. It's going to benefit education in the short term and in the long term. But what are the incentives? And are we being transparent about what's actually happening? That's the part that makes me question. And the reason why I wanted to call this podcast, maybe you shouldn't have watched this, is because if you watch this and you gotten to this point, now you're like starting to get worried. And I don't want to get you worried. This is not the point of the podcast. But I cannot overlook the idea. I cannot look the other way when I see that maybe what we're experiencing is not a transparent transaction. And the worst thing that could happen is that we go through this massive change and have to relearn our job or change jobs or change careers or disrupt my life or disrupt my family's life. And you find out after the fact that you weren't being told everything, that they had awareness that something was happening and didn't tell you about it, that you were left out of the loop and uninformed while decisions were made that directly impact you as an individual. And this is what I've seen in my professional life. The lack of communication during times of change, the lack of understanding. And sometimes it's not even lack of understanding. Sometimes it's just lack of demonstrating that you understand. Leave people in a position to where if there's anything negative to be felt, they feel it very strongly. And then trust is broken. And if we end up in a world where trust is broken between us and AI, it will not go well. So I have to address this. I have to address the fact that there may be a time, there may be something happening here where there's not transparency. And maybe that's because of a lack of education. Maybe it's on people like me now to communicate this, but in a way that doesn't diminish the possibilities here. I still believe that this is a tool that's going to provide agency to humanity, to individuals that we've never seen anything like before, where I can provide someone in Nigeria their own AI that has an IQ that exceeds their IQ by 40 points, right? Not making a claim or a statement on a Nigerian IQ. It would exceed my IQ by 40 points as well. But to a person that has no means or has limited means, that maybe is struggling for food and water, not only can I help them with the food and water part, but then I can say, and here is a genius with practically infinite knowledge that now works for you and will help you start a business, get an idea, contribute. That's how it starts. This is something that the potential is clear. So I have to be careful about whether I endorse this, how I endorse this, and how I am transparent about what's really happening. And so the more I think about it, the more I do think the end goal, beyond the incentive of what I need to get to what I want, which is Dario Amodei wants to build a human-aligned superintelligence. That's it. In summary, how do I get there? Well, like I said, you got to have the capital, the talent, and the runway. And then you do things like you train out the teachers. I think if you interrogated him and he was honest, he would say, this is for the best. This is in humans' alignment. If I take those teachers, train off of them so I can build better teachers. And I can't even disagree that statement, but I can disagree with that should be the headline. Because if you start to deceive because the people you think that people can't handle it, you've lost. You're going to accomplish the opposite of what you want to accomplish. So it's difficult. It's difficult for me to figure out the strategy here. And I think, I do think someone like Demis Hassabis at Open or DeepMind and Google is aware of that problem. I think Dario's probably aware of that problem, but is just making decisions that he's, like I said, he just thinks it's in the best interest, and we don't have to know everything because he knows more. So this is why and I agree with the person that I should probably get their name, but the person that was in the most recent episode of Diary of a CEO. It's too big. It's too big for one person. It's too big for one company. It's too big for one company that has specific incentives, and government's not the answer either. I mean, people turn to government because of a lack of an alternative, right? And people turn to God and religion because there's a lack of an alternative for the things that God and religion provide. This is new. This is something where you can't just have a tech guy with an academic background to make decisions like this, to make the call of how do we communicate with the population? What do we tell them? What do we not tell them? When do we tell them? So I'm glad the Vatican has started to make comments about this. The Vatican, the Pope as the leader of the largest religious community in the world should be involved. And and as a side, that's straight out of my book that I'm writing. But it can't stop there, right? This is new governance, right? The political system in the United States and the political system anywhere is not suited for the speed, complexity, expertise and experience needed for making these decisions, for driving the technology outside of the incentives. This is something that humanity has not ever really done before. These things have always been decided by those that have accumulated power, whether through chance or happenstance or by taking power. And we've done pretty good about trying to distribute and present a governance that's trustworthy enough where the population, I'm talking about the United States now, where the population has bought into it. There's a social contract that we have bought into and we're okay with. Do we have complaints? Sure. Why wouldn't we? Bureaucracy at large is going to have a lot of problems. There's probably still structural problems in the Constitution, and that's why we have a Supreme Court that we're still working out, right? But we bought into it enough. And I think it was Churchill, someone said, I've mentioned this before, the democracy we have is about the worst system of governance that I could think of, except for all other forms of governance. So it's not ideal, but it has been effective in keeping this country prosperous. And the trajectory of this country in terms of how it treats people, human rights, preservation of life and liberty has only gotten better since the Declaration of Independence. You can debate about missteps, sidesteps, some backward steps, but there's no data to support anywhere that things have not gotten better and could continue to get better. So we have a system that works, but it's the system that's incompatible, fundamentally incompatible with the technology that's happening right now. So what do you do? And this is why I predict, and I'm not the only one, that the number one topic, whether it's apparent or not, the number one topic for this next presidential election is going to be AI. It'll probably be in the context of jobs or economy. I mean, for Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid. Mark my words, it's AI, stupid. That's the thing that really matters. Whether or not by that point in time, the politicians have either become more educated by it, they're going to pretend to become educated by it because there's enough money involved. When there's trillions of dollars at stake, it's the number one topic. And like I said, it may not be obvious to the public, but it will be the number one topic. So what do you do when you have a governance, when you have a government that has no ability to make the right kind of decisions at this moment in time? And none of our old solutions will make sense here. Like I'm not advocating the government take over AI, take over the companies that are doing this, advocating that the government do it instead. I'm not advocating anything. I'm not advocating a new body like an FDA for AI. All those things won't work here. And it's because of the speed and the consequences here. Isn't it strange that we live in these times? Isn't it strange that we live? Imagine, I can't compare it to anything, but I can compare it to maybe, imagine if you were Leonardo da Vinci with the context of what you are doing and how it impacts the future. In other words, you're Leonardo da Vinci in his prime, and then all of a sudden you can see exactly what you have created and what is wrought by it. That would freeze you in your tracks. And what's happening now is we're going to potentially have 10 billion Leonardo da Vinci's all contributing at the same level. That should stop you in your tracks. And we are building right now the foundation. We're making decisions now that are going to lead to those 10 billion da Vinci's, probably one way or the other, with or without people. So it's hard to wrap your mind around. It's harder that, From the very start, maybe even from the first episode, I advocated that this is not a tech problem. This is one of the things I always say in my job. Like, well, first of all, I always say, so I'm like an IT executive. I always say my job's not IT. People go, what? What do you mean it's not IT? I go, no, my job's people management and risk management. Because all the decisions I make are based on those two things. Oh, no, it's interesting. But that's what we have here. We have to have not just IT people doing this or academics. We have to have people that experience in leading people, right? Just leaders. And magically, do you think that someone as brilliant as Elon was a born leader, or he had to learn? You think Dario he would think he has that position because he was like, oh, Dario's the best leader. Oh no, people are often thrust into leadership. But there are people that become fantastic leaders, and we should learn from them. So we need soft skills like leadership. Then we need hard skills. We need sociologists. We need psychologists. We need philosophers. We need people that are advanced in logic and rhetoric and persuasion. And then we need people in biology, obviously, physics. We need to have like a Justice League of the greatest thinkers and minds of our time. And it's like building the atom bomb. I don't know if you've seen Oppenheimer, but that's what they tried to do. They tried to assemble the greatest physicists for this task, but this dwarfs the atomic bomb. So you don't just need physicists. That's what we need. We need an assembly that's the greatest assembly of all time. And then we need for them to move at AI pace. And that's asking a lot of an individual. And it's asking even more than that of a group. Because people aren't used to working that way. So, even if you assembled them, how could they work that way? There's in academia, you see a lot of like groups that are cross-disciplinary that make great things. Like you can cross the data scientist with the computer scientists and the psychologists and a mind biologist, and all of a sudden you could do some amazing things because they each bring something particular that can solve a very particular problem of the mind, for example. But I've seen those people work, and they operate at a reasonably slow pace, and it's by design, and it's peer reviewed, and it's, that pace is incompatible with AI. I do believe that some of these people, some of these researchers, some of these frontier lab leaders, they get to this point in their thinking, and they're just like my mind is breaking right now. Their mind breaks too, and they go, "Oh God, well, probably AI is just going to help with this." Like the classic thing to do with AI. I'm talking a large language model here. Is if you want to get your large language model to do something, but you don't know how to ask it. It's like, I'm not sure how to get the best result. Well, what you do is you go, dear large language model, I don't know how to ask you this question to get the best result that I want. Can you help me ask you? I feel like that's what they're doing. They're saying, well, at some point, AI is going to help me solve this governance problem. And then I won't have to worry anymore. That is short-sighted thinking, in that's assuming that the decisions that we make in the interim, in the meantime, aren't consequential, that you can wait for the moment where better decisions can be made by artificial intelligence, and everything to that point was inconsequential now that we got there. Maybe that's what they believe. But let me ask you this, and I watch a lot of podcasts right now, or listen to a lot of podcasts, exactly what I've been talking about. And I've heard, well, except for the gentleman I talked about that was on the Diary of CEO, I don't think anyone's asking these questions, and no one's holding the leaders of these frontier labs. No one's putting their feet to the fire to ask these questions. And I would venture a guess to say that they would dance around the subject and just try to appear like they care and they're working towards alignment, and probably do it in a way that looks like they're telling the truth, because they probably are. Because they know if they answer these questions specifically, it's going to affect their incentives. It's going to affect their capital. It's going to affect their talent. Why do you think Dario talks the way he does? To get the talent. Because Dario probably believes that he's so close and he's already got enough investors that he just needs the capital to get there. I mean, they're attracting so much talent to Anthropic. Every day someone moves over there. People that are retired come out of retirement to go to Anthropic. I suspect that for some of these big names, he's showing them something that no one else has seen. And when they see that, they're like, oh, I want to be part of that. So something like a demonstration that either AGI is already here and he's just not showing it, like not just AGI that I've suggested, but like something that's really deeper than has ever been demonstrated. Or that it is just around the bend and let's get the best talent we can at Anthropic so that when we get there, it's going to be just like so aligned and so good. So I feel like he's attracting talent by what he says in the media and what he's showing these people in that quote interview. And then not worry about it after he has his AGI ASI super intelligence. I think the incentives and I think how well things have gone and the fact that a lot of these people are new to this kind of decision making has created a scenario in which they're just hopeful. They're relying upon hope and faith at this point, which is not really a way to make thoughtful decisions. I'm not saying hope and faith shouldn't be a component, but we have to call into question the incentives and the decision making of the leaders of the frontier labs. We have to, and I don't see it happening. And I think the people that are educated about it are, like me, reluctant to do so because of the consequence. And I mean, we're talking about if the poison pill gets out there that says it creates the narrative that the frontier labs are not on our side, it's going to tank the economy, not just the valuation of those companies, because so much of the market, the public market, and so much of commerce and so much of everything has now been redefined and is starting to rely upon this and starting to rely upon the growth of AI. That it would be disruptive enough if AI companies were poison pilled, it'd be disruptive enough to send us into a deep recession. And that's just fact, right? I mean, I don't think an economist would disagree with that statement. So then you have people say, well, I don't want to be transparent and poison pill the whole thing. You can look back and you can say, well, did we know this before? Were we aware before that this is a possibility? Yes. There were books written in 1999 about this. I wrote a premise for a novel in 2005 about much of this, some of the guesses, but a lot of it has come to pass and is continuing to come to pass, including, well, never mind. But yeah, we did know, but it's too late to just go back and say would have, could have, should have. You always think that, well, the lie is too big. And you're telling a lie and you think to yourself, or maybe you commit a crime. And I don't know why I'm talking about committing crimes and being a liar, but when you have a lie that's big, you think to yourself, well, at this point, it's probably too big to come clean. It's not going to be good. And this is why when you get caught in a crime, especially in politics, why are you caught? It's the cover up. It's the cover up. And why are the consequences so great? The cover up. I'm not suggesting there's a cover up here, but I'm suggesting there's not transparency. And I'm suggesting we're not asking the questions to find out if things are transparent or not. So I don't know whether to pivot what I'm saying in public or not. Should I put on a mask and start a different podcast about the danger and being aggressively critical and aggressively proposing a different model? Not model as an AI model, but model of governance, model of execution. I don't think that enough thought is being put into what is happening here. And I'm not talking about like technical thought. I mean, thought, deep analysis, looking at our human nature, looking at how we historically do things, understanding that there's probably a lot of predictable outcomes here based upon our experience. And what we don't know, we kind of know what we have to have in place, right? Yes, there's a lot, like I said, there's no government that can accommodate the change. But I just don't think there's enough intellectual consideration. Where's the thought leader? Who's the thought leader? Like I said, I'm glad people are chiming in, like the Pope. Is he the thought leader for this? How could Sam Altman possibly be the thought leader with the incentives that he has driving his decision making? How can a company that has a closed and private model hiding by design the technology so their competitors don't find out? How is that person the thought leader? And as I reason through this, I think that's it. We need to find the thought leaders. The thought leaders can't just be one. But oftentimes, if there's an industry or even a discipline, you can think of the thought leaders. Like if you want to think about atheists, right? There's a couple well-known thought leaders in that category. Pass it on. The guy always comes up in the atheist realm. You want to talk about Israel? There's thought leaders that are pro and anti-Israel, right? I mean, anything you can pick up, there's thought leaders. But generally, if you have a thought leader, they have some sort of credibility about them. Maybe sometimes their credibility comes from their style or their shock factor. Like right now, we have a Candace Owens who has a shock factor that for some reason gives her credibility. I think she's got credibility because she has talent. I don't agree with what she says necessarily, but she's an effective communicator, which gives you credibility. Where's the credible thought leader for AI? It can't be these business people with limited experience. The talented person should not be the thought leader. Right? Should Michael Jordan have been the CEO of the Chicago Bulls? Right now we have Michael Jordan running SpaceX, right? For all intents and purposes, Elon Musk is the Michael Jordan. The ball goes through him. And as intelligent as Elon is, and he is an introspective individual, he definitely doesn't have the credibility because half the country doesn't like him. And as rich as he is, you think he shouldn't be beholden to financial incentives? He still has the same incentives as everyone else. I mean, he may be more humble. I don't know. He may actually make business decisions that aren't his own business's self-interest because that's his ethical stance. I don't know. People make that claim. But he has the same incentives. So he cannot be the thought leader. At least that's my claim. So how could we think about the thought leader here that has credibility? And what do we give those thought leaders? We just give them a platform? The presidential cabinet, and then the president also has advisors. And you can bring these short-term special advisors, and when there's a national issue, and that's how they resolve it, right? Like they brought in David Sachs, who was a venture capitalist, to work for the Trump administration, and he did his time, and then left. And he was like the AI czar, right, for all intents and purposes. And so he was the thought leader that came in with credibility and was given a platform and then influence over the government. However, David Sachs has similar incentives. I don't know. I don't know if you have to create something new. I don't want to say go to the academics to get this done. There's problems in academia as well. I just think it's a lack of leadership. I think this country has a lack of leadership in the most crucial time that we can imagine. We're focused on war and the cost of things, and that's good. We should be. But we're nowhere near devoting the resources we need to devote to this problem on how to take the next few steps before it becomes overwhelming and we will have regrets that we weren't more involved. And, I have kids, and how do you teach a child to make the right choice until they've experienced the wrong choice? That's why we have systems in place. That's why we let children experiment with risk when they're younger. How do we do that? And at this point in the podcast, I am just trying to think through the problem. Maybe I should stop, but I need help figuring this out because I do see a vacuum. And my guess is these people already exist. My guess is that they may have thought about this too. My guess is that the platform they have yet to take the correct platform. And my guess is they need help. So how do we pull that together? How do we get these people up to speed with an apparatus around them so they can move fast, put them on the right platform in front of the right people, and tackle these problems? And some people are doing it, but there needs to be a more coordinated effort. But the vacuum is still there. So I think I'll end with that. We need a group of thought leaders with credibility, and they need support. This is not something a single podcaster can take on. This is not going to be someone that falls into a bubble, right? We're not going to make the Tucker Carlson of AI. We're not going to, this is not that. But there could be a community. There could be a place where these people meet and talk. It's happened before. Historically, people have realized that things are changing and they self-assemble. That's kind of the start of this country. We might need a Declaration of Independence moment. In fact, the more I think about it, I think that might be the model. And it has sort of been attempted. Like, there was a point where a bunch of people signed a document saying we need to pause AI development. Elon signed it, and I think Demis signed it, probably Dario signed. So there have been moments in time when people get together. There was a moment in time a few weeks ago, people got together and said, we will all agree now that we're not going to use AI for these biochemical risks, and we'll build AI thusly. But it was in the news, but no one really paid attention to it. I paid attention because I paid attention because I watched that kind of stuff. But there needs to be something like that. It needs to be a Declaration of Independence moment, and it needs to be the most important thing the world is looking at the time. Pie in the sky, maybe. But I don't see any other way to solve a big problem other than big solutions. And not quickly. I'm not saying this as like one day summit and then everything's solved. But so I think I made my case. I think I've identified the vacuum. I've identified the lack of the thought leader, and I've identified that the incentives of these big AI companies are just wrong for the problem at hand. So I don't want to get repetitive. But yeah, I apologize I didn't hit a lot of news. I just felt more strongly about this topic, and hopefully we can get back to a more back and forth process. Maybe my podcast partner will come back and we'll do something more upbeat. Oh, it wasn't a downer. But this is something that if you spent any time thinking about AI, any substantive time other than, oh, I don't want to lose my job. If you really thought about it, you should think about this. And if you are in a position of influence, this is the podcast for you, because you have a responsibility. Make this happen or help make this happen. And if you're a thought leader or work with thought leaders, I've clearly called you out. So I'm just a small podcaster, but a good idea is a good idea. So I think this is a good idea. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Would announce itself. You thought there would be a warning, a signal, a flash, a voice, but it already started. It already started. It already started. This is the golden age. Golden age. Golden age. Golden age. This is the golden age. Turn it up. Break the cage. Turn it up. Golden age. New world, old skin. Let the signal pull you in. No map, no brakes. Every second rearrange. New voice, no face. Moving through the human race. Too fast, too late. Welcome to the golden age. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Moving underneath. This is the golden age. Golden age. Golden age. Golden age. This is the golden age. No return, no escape. Feel the future change its shape. This is the golden Machines dream, people stare. Something new is everywhere. No parade, no command. Just the future in your hand. One spark, one sound. Turn the whole world upside down. One thought, one day. Nothing stays the same.
Nothing stays. Nothing stays. Nothing stays
The same. This is the golden age. Golden age. Golden age. Golden age. This is the golden age. Turn it up. Break the cage. Turn it up. We believe progress would move forward, one step after another. But now, every answer creates another question. Every machine builds another machine. Every idea accelerates the next. The line became a curve. The curve became a wall. And now, we are inside it. We are already started.